Amphenol APH, Beginner's Guide. Picture every cable, connector, antenna, and sensor that ties the modern electronic world together: the plug at the end of a fiber line in a data center, the rugged connector on a fighter jet, the tiny antenna inside your phone. Most of those parts come from companies you have never heard of, and Amphenol is the second largest one on the planet. This is an educational walkthrough only, not investment advice. We are just trying to understand what the business does. So, what does APH actually do? Amphenol designs and manufactures the physical plumbing that moves electrical signals, data, and power between electronic parts. Think connectors, the plugs and sockets that join two cables, plus the cables themselves, fiber optic lines that carry data as pulses of light, antennas for wireless signals, and sensors that detect things like temperature, pressure, or position. The company runs roughly 130 small autonomous business units across more than 40 countries, with about 125,000 different products in its catalog. The business reports in three big buckets. The biggest one, about 59% of sales, is called Communication Solutions, which did $4.5 billion in the most recent quarter. That bucket sells into IT datacom, meaning information technology data communications, basically the wiring inside cloud data centers run by Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. It also covers communications networks, automotive electronics, and mobile devices. Inside that, AI, artificial intelligence, build-outs in data centers are the hottest end market right now, growing more than 80% year over year. The second bucket is Harsh Environment Solutions, about 22% of sales at $1.7 billion. Harsh environment means defense. Think fighter jets, missiles, naval systems, plus commercial aerospace and tough industrial settings where a connector has to survive shock, heat, salt, or vibration. The third bucket is interconnect and sensor systems, about 19% of sales at $1.4 billion. That one sells sensors and connectors into cars and factories, plus more AI data center work. The business model is simple. Suppliers, copper and precious metals makers, specialty plastics, fiber optic component makers, ship raw materials in. Amphenol turns them into connectors, high-speed data center cables that move 800 gigabits or even 1.6 terabits per second, fiber optic solutions, and rugged sensors. Customers buy the finished parts: hyperscalers like AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud, original equipment manufacturers like Apple and Samsung, and the big automotive parts suppliers, defense primes like Lockheed and Raytheon, and telecom carriers and network equipment makers. The total worldwide market for interconnect, cable, antenna, and sensor products is about $500 billion. Amphenol is doing roughly $30 billion in annual revenue, so it holds only about a 6% share, meaning there is a lot of runway left. So, who does APH compete with, and how does it win? Amphenol's main rival is TE Connectivity, the global #1 in interconnect. There are also many smaller specialists in each niche. Amphenol's competitive advantage, what investors call a moat, meaning the thing that keeps rivals from catching up, gets rated wide in our analysis. Three things create that moat. First, diversification. Amphenol runs about 100 business units across more than 60 countries, with 125,000 different products, and no single customer is more than 10% of revenue. When one end market slows down, say automotive demand softens, another end market like defense or AI data centers can pick up the slack. Smaller competitors that lean on one industry or one big customer cannot match that breadth. Second, what they call a decentralized M&A engine. M&A means mergers and acquisitions, buying other companies. Amphenol has bought more than 130 businesses over the past 20 years, almost entirely with the cash the company generates rather than by issuing new stock. They tend to buy founder-led businesses, keep the original general managers in place to run them like entrepreneurs, and then apply their own margin discipline. The biggest deal in company history just closed in January 2026, a $10.5 billion acquisition of CommScope CCS, a fiber optic and building connectivity business. That deal added more than $4 billion of revenue at close and is already growing faster than Amphenol expected. Third, AI infrastructure. Amphenol now offers the broadest range of high-speed connectors for AI data centers: copper, power, and fiber optic, both passive and active. That matters because building a modern AI data center requires miles of specialized cabling between racks of graphics chips. Management says they sit at the table with the chip designers, the original equipment manufacturers, and the cloud customers on current architectures, next-generation architectures, and even the generation after that, including a new approach called CPO, or co-packaged optics, where optical components get placed directly next to the processing chip. What are the key drivers for the business over the past 5 years? 3 forces drove the past 5 years. First, the AI data center boom. IT Datacom, the cabling business inside cloud data centers, has grown from a much smaller share of revenue to just over 40% of total sales today, and that segment alone grew 81% in the most recent quarter. Sales into AI data centers doubled in just 2 years between early 2024 and early 2026. Every new generation of AI chips requires more and faster interconnect, and Amphenol sells into all the major hyperscalers. Second, the margins, meaning how much profit the company keeps out of every dollar of sales, have expanded meaningfully. Operating margin went from about 20% 5 years ago to over 27% today. The reason is part product mix. The communication solutions bucket runs the highest margins at roughly 30%, and part scale, because once a factory is built, every extra unit it produces is cheaper than the one before. Management has been disciplined about controlling costs as volume has scaled. Third, the acquisition machine. Those 130-plus deals over 20 years culminated in the $10.5 billion CommScope CCS deal that closed in January 2026. CCS brings fiber optic connectivity for buildings and data centers and is performing better than expected, growing at the same pace as Amphenol's organic, non-acquired business, faster than the mid-teens growth rate management had assumed when announcing the deal. To wrap up, so in one sentence, Amphenol is the global number 2 maker of the small, specialized parts that physically connect the electronic world together, with a particularly strong position in the wiring inside AI data centers. As a learner, the things worth keeping an eye on are how the CommScope CCS integration plays out, how AI capital spending evolves at the major hyperscalers, and whether new architectures like co-packaged optics shift the mix between copper and fiber connectors. This was an educational overview only, not investment advice. Always do your own research before making any financial decisions.